You may have noticed that I am British. We can put the glasses down now. Which is quite ironic actually, because for the 25 years that I lived in England, I was always Jewish. Everybody else was British, and everybody else that's Jewish was Jewish. Now, when I came on Aliyah, I suddenly became British as I became an Israeli. So now I'm British. Great! Always wanted to be. But my question for today is, what is Britishness? If there is such a word. I'm a grammarian, so I can use any word I like. What is Britishness? How did that affect me as a Jew living in England? And how does that affect me since the 24 years that I've lived in Israel? Have I recovered from that? So let's start. And what I want to do is I'd like to look at those things by looking at some quirky British holidays, 3 quirky British holidays, and I'd like to explain to you the holiday itself, how it's celebrated, how that tells us something about British culture, and how the Jews reacted to that, if they picked that up or not. And again, at the end, I'd like to refer to myself as an Israeli, and how I relate to my upbringing. So, let's kick off with a festival which is going to happen tomorrow, which is called Guy Fawkes Night, or it's also called Bonfire Night. Now, on the 5th of November 1605, Guy Fawkes attempted to blow up the Houses of Parliament and the King James at the time. And what happened was that he failed in that mission, and since then, for 410 years, people have been celebrating his failure to blow up the king. Now, what's happened there? He was a Catholic. The Protestants were the kings. He wanted to kill the Protestant king. So what does that tell us about British culture? Right? They like to marginalize people. If you're not the same as me, you're different, and I'm going to burn you. Right? And so the way it's celebrated now is every year we make a bonfire, and we make a doll of Guy Fawkes, and we burn it on the bonfire. Lovely. So what I'd like to learn about British culture is that, as long as you're the same as me, you're okay, and if you're different, then you're not good. Which means that the Jewish people also, the way they reacted to it was they tried to fit in, as opposed to like an American or an Israeli culture where you keep your culture, more or less, and everybody's different. Who cares? But in Britain, you have to be the same. Now, the second festival I'd like to have a look at is called the Queen's official birthday. Now, the Queen's official birthday is either 1st or 2nd Saturday in June. Why? Why do you think? Why in June? Because the Queen's actual birthday is in April. And in April, it's more likely to rain. So they moved it to June. How do they celebrate it? Everybody dresses up in their lovely military uniforms, on the horses with the swords, and they do a parade with the Queen. What do we learn about British culture? Formality, being formal, and etiquette, the way we behave. And the English people have a certain way of behaving. When we were at the table, well, not me, but some families, when their children were at the table, they had to ask permission to leave. I don't know if other cultures they do that, but we had to do that. You have to stand in a line, a queue. You have to stand in a queue. You can't push in. Okay, so that's the British culture. And how did the Jews react to that? So the Jews have lots of rules, don't they? A few more rules. Okay, great! The more the merrier. So the Jews also had to fit in, see culture number one, fit in and obey the cultural rules of society. Now, number 3, the third holiday that I'd like to look at is called Pancake Day. Have you ever heard of Pancake Day? It's 47 days before Easter, which is the time when Lent starts. And in Christianity, they give up things for Lent. They fast, they give up things. So they give up rich foods. And the rich food which they really blow out on the day before this starts is a pancake. They really know how to party in England. This festival in other cultures is known as Mardi Gras, which you might have heard of, which is Fat Tuesday. Yeah, have you heard of it? Mardi Gras, anyone? So the way that they celebrate it in other places is that they drink, they have wild parades, they debauchery, and so compared to how it's celebrated in England, it's really eh. So the British cultural aspect I'd like to bring out from this is understatement. Right? We don't get too excited about things. If something happens, we go. If something really bad happens, but really, we don't really do very much about it. And to bring some of these things together, let's say that if somebody pushes in a queue, right, in England, oh, that's terrible. That is a very terrible thing according to the etiquette. But how does a British person react? Might raise an eyebrow. Not two. Takes more serious for two. So, those are the three aspects of British. Fitting in, rules of etiquette, and understatement. So how does that fit in with being an Israeli? Not really. Really doesn't help you very much. But I was brought up British. 25 years I lived there. It's very hard to break out of that. I think I've done it a little bit. Toastmasters has helped me. But, and you have to, in Israel, it's a bit of the, use a bit of the elbow work, don't you? To get into the queues, to do something, to do anything. And in Israel, as opposed to, let's say, in England, if you don't speak, it means that you've got nothing to say. Right? Maybe it's obvious, but if you want something here, you have to demand it. You have to, I want it. Right? But, so, I've had to break out a little bit of those British cultural aspects. I'm still locked into a lot of them, but I think I've adapted a little bit to how we behave in Israel. I hope you've learned something about British cultural aspects from my speech, being entertained and informed, and I wish you all British culture. Love it.